She slapped me upside the head. Boy, did I ever get it come up from
We should not be sitting together, I wanna put that.
Will went a couple of weeks ago.
If I get in trouble with this, Bob.
The size of a toonie, to my scalp.
You two, we just like them old guys on the Muppets.
Land acknowledgement. We begin today by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Woolastoq-Whig. These territories are covered by treaties of peace and friendship of the Woolastoq-Whig people, first signed with the British Crown in 1725. I now call our meeting to order. Welcome and Happy New Year. Attendance has been taken. Are there approval of the agenda?
So moved, Marty Forsyth.
Second it, Bob Powell or Motto.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Are there any conflict of interest for disclosure this evening? I will now turn the floor over to Kelly Shaw and she'll do a review of the policy and document details.
Just gonna bring up a little presentation to make this easier. So we do this every year. The topic of conflict of interest means many things, but according to the Act, it's very specific. So the general regulation under the RSD Act says that no board member shall be employed by or in contract with as an agent or act otherwise to provide goods or services to the commission in exchange for consideration directly or indirectly while holding office as a member of the board or for a 12-month period following their term. So conflict of interest, if you have a private company, you or your family associate is a shareholder, director, or officer, or if you have a public company, you or a family associate has an interest in or controls. If you have a conflict of interest, it's a no-play zone. A family associate it's your spouse, your parents, your child, or your sibling. The Act is very specific on this. It's nobody else. It's not your cousin, it's not your friend, not your dentist. It's not wrong to have a conflict of interest. It is wrong to have one and not declare it. So at the in your package at the end of the meeting tonight, if you wouldn't mind filling out the statement of disclosure that we do every year in January, and just confirming that you may have a conflict of interest, naming it if that's the case, and submitting it with me after the meeting. Would you like to add anything?
We always have to keep in mind that a conflict of interest, sorry, Madam Chair, through you to the board. That a conflict of interest in the Act is a direct conflict of interest, and sometimes it can be a perceived conflict of interest. It can be as damaging to reputational harm as a real conflict. So just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that, you know, in terms of that, if you think you may have a conflict or you think there's something, don't be afraid to disclose it. We'll help you through it and we'll help you get through it. We're here to help, we're here to serve, and that's what your professional staff up here and all around in these offices all around us here today, that's what we're here for. So we want to help you, but just make sure that if you feel that you may be in a situation, reach out. And the first point of contact on that is Kelly or myself. And we can certainly help you through it.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, John. We'll go to number 5 now, the consent agenda. A, approval of minutes, December the 2nd, 2025, December 17th, 2025. B, Regional Infrastructure Committee report. C, Community Development Committee report. D, Public Safety Committee report. E, Oversight Committee report. F, Tenders Information Only, fourth quarter report 2025. I need a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I'll move Len Faulkner.
Second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We'll go to number 7 now, the CEO report. John, please.
Madam Chair, we'll go down to the podium just because we have a presentation to give, and Brett and I will both. Madam Chair, through you to the board, to the members, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight to present my report. And February 3rd, 2026. And I just want to say, as our chair did, welcome back and Happy New Year. Some of you we've seen and some of you we haven't seen. So it's good to see everybody back to kind of get the band back together again, if you will. And we wanted to let you know that the committees will be starting their full meeting schedule. There were some committee meetings, audit and finance and public safety in January, but most of the committee meetings will start and resume again in earnest this month. And this year we're headed for a municipal election and we need to be clear on our path forward. So we've got in terms of that, we have some key election dates with respect to that, and the election dates are all in your package. If you notice, there's 2 highlighted in blue. May 11th, that's election day, polls open province-wide, and May 13th, declaration day of official results are declared. All the others are technical and more specific to your local communities, and these can all be found at Elections New Brunswick, on the Elections New Brunswick website. So I just wanted to say that on key election dates, if a person is elected, they have to wait a period of time outlined in the Municipal Elections Act before they're sworn in. And I think you all have been through that and know that, but just to remind everyone, it's a 10-day after the date of declaration, and the date of declaration is May 13th. And you can find that again also on the Elections NB website. Most council members will not be sworn in or accepting office until around the week of May 25th. Again, 10 days after the date of declaration, and then I believe we fall into a weekend in that time frame. And following an election, the first council meeting must be held no later than June 15th. So unless there's an issue with a recount, illness, etc., all council members must accept office before their first council meeting. So in New Brunswick, regional service commissions can continue to operate or meet during municipal election period. While the Local Governance Act, specifically Section 55, imposes restrictions on outgoing municipal councils, RSCs remain operational to ensure the delivery of essential services like land use planning and solid waste management. So the restrictions under Section 55, this is when we get into our lame duck period. So within that, the lame duck period begins on the day of a general election. So again, back to May 11th. So on that day, the election that starts on that day and ends at the first meeting of the new council. During this time, subsection 55(1) of the Local Governance Act prohibits sitting councils, and by extension, their representatives on RSC boards, from taking actions that could significantly bind future administrations. So we want to be respectful of the incoming board. And who knows, we may all be back together again in June, we hope, but there may be some changes. So time will tell us those things, not tonight. So key dates due to the election, in keeping with our previous precedents in 2021 and 2022, the CRSC will not meet in May unless required. If we need a special meeting, the chair and the vice chair can consult, and they have the privilege. The chair has the privilege to authorize that, and I can consult with the chair as well. So we can hold a meeting if need be. The CRSC will hold orientation on June 18th. So for all of you that are reoffering, and I hope you all are, again, we've got a good board and we'd like to see as many back as possible. But for those who are, June 18th is a Thursday. And last time we had it on a Saturday, it snowed. It was a little rough getting home for some and things like that. So this is in summer. We'll be having a day for orientation. And there will be further information forthcoming over the next month or so. We're securing dates, we're securing the agenda, the full orientation package. And the CRSC will hold election of officers as we did in 2023, in January of 23. So on June 18th, 2026, we'll be holding the election of officers for chair and vice chair. Following that, the chair and the vice chair will call for committee interest after the election of officers and make appointments to the committee. So we can get right into the committee work heading into the fall, because there'll be lots for the new councils. Some councils have, 50+% not reoffering, some have 10% not reoffering, and some have 0 not reoffering. So it's going to be whatever happens through the elections. So we'll be able to do that. So any questions on that part of the presentation on the key election dates, that type of thing? And I may have to refer you to Elections New Brunswick for technical things, but that's the high level overview within that. Okay, seeing no questions, I'll keep continuing on. So as part of the CEO report for this evening, I always like to try to brief you on things that are happening and keep you informed. Physician recruitment update. So the CEOs are meeting, the CEO of Horizon on February 5th in the morning. I just wanted you to know that it's not an in-person meeting, it's going to be virtual. As you know, the CEO committee from around the province, we meet every Thursday. If anyone ever needs something put on the agenda, let me know and we can have those conversations. And we try to meet as frequently as possible, but normally every Thursday or every other Thursday, we have a 2-hour meeting and talk about issues of importance. And the topic of communications in this meeting is communications. Sorry, the topic of discussion is communications. And we saw at our meeting back on November 28th for the region, the importance of communications. There was a lot of information that was shared that day and a lot of new information that came to light and information that we didn't know before. I don't want to get into the crux of all that. I don't want to rehash that meeting, but it really came right down to 2 things: education and communications. So I took the lead for the CEO group, whereas located purely situational, and reached out to CEO Melanson, and she agreed to come and meet with us. We want a robust communications moving forward, and we'd like to have this happening. And we understand that the Vitalité Network has been working on this as well, trying to get better, strong communications, and they have a good record on that. So we want the same for our region as well. So meeting schedule for spring, committees and board. We have a schedule out in your package here this evening from March 3rd to April 7th. And the reason we looked at April 7th, not necessarily as a cutoff. There will be meetings that will continue past that, but primarily committee. But that's our annual general meeting, and we'll have a robust AGM. There will be lots of information forthcoming on that, but we are looking at meeting with the governance committee soon to look at potential changes to some of our bylaw, more house cleaning than anything, but potential changes, and those will go through the proper channels and back to the board for discussion and approval. So the next thing I want to talk to you about was the province of New Brunswick organics policy. That's not my area of expertise, and I've asked our Chief Operating Officer, Brett McRae, if he would come up and join me here. And I'm going to take a seat and let Brett kind of give you an overview of where we're at. We did have an in-camera session in December and spoke about that. The information that Brett shares with you tonight will be informative, and he's been very busy and active on this file. So Brett, if you would.
Thanks, John. Through you, Madam Chair. So just to start off, this reminds me of my wedding speech. It's on a piece of note paper. So we spoke about it briefly in December of the organics plan, and it's our position at the staff level that you know the strategy specifically for organics represents a primary objective misalignment. The reason I say that, they focused on composting, which often is synonymous with organics management. But there are obviously more cost-effective and efficient ways of managing greenhouse gases, and that was really the premise that they were going to that they used to justify having a new organics approach in the province. That more cost-effective, efficient approach obviously would be landfill gas collection utilization as well. So currently we've got our gas field in place. It's up and running. It has been for a long time. It's very efficient. We collect enough landfill gas to, you know, for example, we could supply the entire city of Fredericton and have excess left over. We currently generate electricity, and that would produces enough power for about 2,400 homes. So pretty significant project. We're committed to it. Beyond that, I mean, we've done a lot of work. We've got new technology rolling out. Happy to speak to that if anybody has any questions on it, but not really what we're here for tonight. As far as an update goes, it's been positive. We've continued conversations with the staff at the Department of Environment. They seem open to conversations. They seem they've acknowledged that their proposed approach is exceptionally expensive. It would be a cost that would be borne primarily by municipalities, whether it's in collection or in the actual diversion of the organics and the construction of the facilities required to handle them. So in light of that, and in light of the recent federal regulations on methane emissions from landfills, those new regulations actually included a section where they did a cost analysis of the technologies that they were proposing, which in their case was landfill gas collection utilization. The province has chosen to do the same thing, and we're happy for that. What I would say is that it's less than ideal for us, so it is definitely a positive development. One of the potential pitfalls, though, one of the things that I'm concerned about would be averaging our costs across the province. And the reason I say that, we're a high-performing landfill when it comes to gas collection utilization. Essentially, the way they would calculate those costs, they'd be looking at a cost, putting a dollar figure per carbon equivalent ton of emission reductions. And so the way that they would calculate that in general terms would be the cost of our infrastructure plus the cost of our labor, so our operational expenses, less the revenue, and then divided by the number of carbon equivalent tons. The reason that I'm obviously I'm confident in our number. We've already calculated our actuals, so it's not a projection. We have a lower infrastructure cost, and I'll break it down component by component. Years and years ago, we took the view that we were going to integrate horizontal collection piping in our landfill as we filled it. It doesn't cost a lot of money to do something like that. Our own staff can lay the pipe, we can fuse it all ourselves, we drill it all ourselves, and it results in a very efficient collection field, one that isn't impacted by water levels, which is a constant problem in a landfill. So we've got a low infrastructure cost. Comparison, the other landfills are all currently using vertical wells only. We supplement ours with verticals when we get to final elevation, but they're entirely reliant on verticals. Vertical mobilization cost to get the drill rig out by itself, $1 million or so. Maybe it'll be $750,000. Then you've got the drill costs. What you end up with is a vertical well that immediately fills up full of water and doesn't work as an extraction well. Higher costs relative to ours. The next one is labor. You know, we maintain our field entirely with our own staff. We've got some pretty low cost technologies out there now to check our field. We fly drones. We do satellite overflights. We've got imaging equipment where we can actually visualize methane leaks, and we can get our own people out there quickly. The same person that runs our gas plant flies the drone, by the way. And obviously we have backup on hand as well, but they also do field maintenance. They do the well balancing, pretty efficient operation. So low labor costs and then less revenue. So our revenue is high, as you've seen. Now we've had a couple maintenance issues this year, not unusual, but we did have transformer fail on us. We are still operating. We're close to, for the last 2-3 years, I'd say we've got 90% output 90% of the time. To put that in, to compare that to the other commissions that are operating similar systems, I won't name specific commissions, but there are 2 that are comparable size to ours. One doesn't operate their engines at all, so generates 0 revenue. The other operates theirs for a few hours a week. We're 24/7. So we offset our costs that way. And then you look at the denominator in the equation, you remember, is your number of carbon equivalent tons that you're offsetting. We're currently conservatively, and I could give you an exact number if anybody's interested after the meeting, but we're probably around 80,000 carbon equivalent tons per year in offsets. It's a huge number. So what we end up with is low operating costs, low capital costs, high revenue, and a huge denominator. And the end of the story is that we're actually earning money on our carbon offsets. When the province is doing an analysis, they're saying, well, geez, what's it going to cost per carbon equivalent ton? We're actually generating revenue off our project. So it's helping the environment and it's helping offset the costs associated with operating the rest of our facility. Our concern is that when you compare that to the other commissions that we may be averaged with, they have higher operating costs, little to no revenue, and because of the inefficiency of their collection fields, they don't have a large number of carbon offsets to divide those costs by. That's going to be a distortion, and I think it would be unfair to average us with the rest of the other operations. We should be looked at with our own merits. The analogy I used with John the other day was John smiling because he knows what I'm going to say. But it's similar to if you had a child in school and they got an A in a class, and there were 2 other students in the class and they both got Fs, and so you thought it would be fair to give them all Cs. We would be the child with the A, and I'm not sure that that's fair to treat us as though we weren't operating efficiently. We want recognition for the province, and I think that would be the fair thing for them to do of our higher performance level. By the way, these are performance levels that the other landfills could certainly achieve. It's just a matter of adjusting their approach to their gas field and changing their operations somewhat. The other key point that
Do we know that this is the model the province is going to use? Or is this just in the proposal stage?
No, so we just submitted a 100+ page submission full of data and a lot of these same arguments to the province. The deadline was this Monday, just yesterday. So we do know that they have requested the costing. One of our concerns, and I'll get into a little more detail on that, is not only the averaging, but we have our actual costs. And they didn't ask for any of our accounting information. That's concerning. We know what our cost is per carbon equivalent ton. The other concern of ours is that they're talking about a direct comparison. And by the way, we know roughly what it costs to do composting. So I said we're generating a profit on our existing approach. The alternative with composting is going to cost between $50 and $100 per carbon equivalent ton. So pretty significant. And that doesn't, that's the tip of the iceberg. Don't forget, you have to engineer a facility. If you're talking about organics, what they're proposing initially is quite reasonable. They're talking about a diversion of, I think it's a 10% reduction in the amount of organics going into the landfill. In conversations with the province, there's some indication that that is the starting point. I suspect it is, and that is a near-term goal. And, you know, within a few years' time, that could be stepped up to 20%. It could be stepped up to 30%. Nobody achieves 30. And quite frankly, in my last conversation with the Department of Environment, they said, well, we wouldn't do that because no one achieves it. That's virtually all organics being diverted. But the challenge is that you have to engineer a facility. You have to build a facility if it's amortized over a 20-year period for what you expect the tonnage to be in 20 years' time. Right? So you can't build a facility for 10% of the organics in the waste stream if ultimately you're going to have to handle 25%. Right? So you're going to have to eat the cost ultimately right up front. The other side of that is that obviously your facility doesn't operate properly if you're only running 30% of its capacity through for the first 5-10 years. There are a lot of operationally related challenges associated with that approach, even though it's quite palatable at first. It's a difficult one to manage. Let me see here. I talked about projections versus actuals. We have our actuals. We did submit them to the province. We think that's important. We don't want them to try to make generalized calculations when we have the exact calculations. The other point that I have concerns about when you're comparing the two technologies, it's important to realize that, I mean, our investment on landfill gas collection and utilization, those costs, they're all sunk costs. We've spent that money. And so I think it would be a lot more reasonable for the province to focus on the costs on a go-forward basis, to look at what we're really looking at as far as expenditures in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, rather than going back in time to 2006 when we installed our infrastructure. Having said that, even if you go back to 2006 and you absorb all of the costs associated with the project, we're still profitable. But those costs are gone. They've been paid for. I believe they're fully depreciated, a lot of them at this point, as far as the extraction field goes. So that's another point that we've expressed concern over with the province. I'd end the update, and of course I'll be happy to take any questions afterwards but I'd reiterate the recommendation from the previous conversation that we had in December on this. There was some talk. In fact, I heard. I'm gonna steal somebody's line from earlier in the evening when we were having dinner, but I would strongly encourage the directors and the municipalities that are members of the Capital Region Service Commission to express their concerns if they have any directly to the minister or directly to the department, rather than go through the Regional Service Commission as a lobby group. I think your voices are a lot stronger when you voice them together, independently as municipalities, and express your concern that way. I say that from experience as well. We've been through a similar, the last iteration of this on solid waste was PPP, it's called, so Extended Producer Responsibility Program for plastic and paper packaging. We tried the approach of writing a letter from all of the RSCs. All of the RSCs expressed concern, and it didn't carry a whole lot of weight. It wasn't a successful approach, but I suspect if the member municipalities are concerned about the costs associated with it and the lack of efficiency associated with the proposed approach to organics, best thing to do is to write a letter individually and send it to the minister. And I'd like to thank the city of Fredericton. Was quite proactive on that, and they have already expressed, written a letter and expressed concern on this point. I think the more voices, the better on this. And so with that, I'd be happy to take any questions if there are any.
I'd just like to say, it must have been a long wedding.
You'll notice I didn't look at the paper a whole lot either.
Are there any questions from the floor? Yes.
Can you remind me what the target they're looking for is? Are Are we not exceeding what they're talking about doing, asking you to do now currently?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and that's what I alluded to at the beginning when I started speaking. There is a primary objective misalignment. The justification for organics in their action plan is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We've currently got a program that captures 75% of emissions associated with the entire waste stream. That sort of morphed, and so their strategy became composting. Composting, their initial target, it was 10% of organics going into landfill, with the idea that 30% of the total waste going into landfill is organics. So 1/3 of the organics currently going in would have to be diverted.
That's per ton, is by weight?
Yeah, you could look at it that way. I mean, by weight, say we do 85,000 tons a year. What are we looking at? Well, 85,000 tons a year, 8,500 tons. If it was, well, no, that would be the total amount of the organics in the waste stream, but they're talking about 1/3 of the organics in the waste stream. So about 8,500 tons off our total tipping fee. Right. It's got the potential to be a double whammy in that sense, in that it eliminates revenue sources and it increases our expenses at the same time.
Okay, Marty?
Yeah, they're bringing on something new. Why wouldn't they try to get the other regions to come up to your standard that you have done? Producing that kind of rate, because you say nobody else can match what you guys do, right?
No one's matching it right now, but they absolutely could.
If they do it right.
Yes. Yeah,
So
it's possible.
if you have one that's doing it right and you're getting these numbers, then why aren't they saying, why can't we do it like them?
I think it's important to note, and that's something we've been advocating for, but don't forget, so there are 12 RSCs in the province. There are only 6 landfills. The rest of the other 6 RSCs actually operate transfer stations. The math is different for them. They exclusively pay to transfer their waste and the disposal costs to other RSCs. So for those 6 RSCs that operate transfer stations, they may find that their cost, that it makes sense from a business perspective to actually divert locally rather than transport it from, say, Miramichi to Moncton for disposal. But yeah, that absolutely is something that we've advocated for, and we've offered to assist in increasing the efficiency and uptime in the other major landfills systems. Yeah. One last thing I'd say on that, we took an approach about 10 or 15 years ago. There used to be a lot of back and forth between our operational staff with the commission and our engineers. The design engineers are at Waterloo, Ontario. We use GHD. They've got a lot of depth, and there was friction there. Right, it was getting in the way. You know, it didn't make sense. The engineers would say, "Hey guys, you know what? Your system should be working better. It's because of the changes you've made internally." About 10 years ago, we took the approach. You know what? We're going to follow exactly what the engineers tell us. No more debate. We're going to optimize this system. We did that, and over the course of 10 years, we went from a position where we had 50% uptime to 50% output on our engines to a scenario where we're running them 24/7. And it's profitable. So it's certainly doable to increase their performance.
Okay, Richard?
A little contrary to my previous position before the meeting maybe, but so in this case, the province not only wants to tell us what standard we have to meet, but they want to tell us how we have to meet that standard. And if you're telling us, and I believe you are, and I believe what you're saying, that would cost us more money to achieve the same goals that we're achieving currently with their process, I think we all use it. There isn't just some of us. It's everyone. We're all in. And we're meeting a standard. I think we simply have to be in a position to refuse to move into the model that they want. They created 12 RSCs. They could have created one and had control of that one and told them what to do. But I mean, I believe what you're telling us and the information, and taking a stand to try and get them to fix their system so that it'll work better for us doesn't make much sense to me. So I'd really sooner see us say, we hear what you're saying. We understand that you have to have a standard. We understand that everyone has to meet it, but we're able to do it this way, and we think that's sufficient, and that's where we're going to stay. I don't know. Is that too hard-nosed?
If I could add to that, Director Corey, emissions in Canada are regulated by the federal government. They're the primary regulator. I mentioned earlier that they recently released their new regulations on methane emissions from landfills, and we're already compliant. I mean, they don't come into effect for 3 years, and we're already compliant. We already fly drones. We've got all the technology out there to demonstrate that we're in compliance. It's not going to be an operational change for us at all when they come into effect. We wanted to be proactive. We wanted to be able to deal with any potential problems in an organized way rather than scrambling. And so we got out in front of it a few years ago. So we are in compliance. Like I said, there's a primary objective misalignment between the stated goal of greenhouse gas emission reductions and then their strategy to implement that goal, which is organics diversion and compost. We've tried as well. I mean, we about 8 years ago, we started investigations into anaerobic digesters. We did a lot of work on that. We brought in private sector. We talked about partnerships. We saw it as a complementary technology, something that could mesh well with our existing gas system and our gas sales. But we couldn't make the math work. You know, no matter how we cut it, we were at $150 to $200 a ton to manage it, and that's too high. So as it stands right now, that's something we had to walk away from. You're absolutely right. You know, I felt it was important that I share with you that we are in fact compliant with the regulations as they stand.
So if we're in compliance with the regulation and the board gives direction to the staff, well, I'm with Richard. Why is the board not directing the staff to stay in compliance with the national regulation? And then you could, or John, you could say to them, well, I'm being directed by the board, and let them come in, unless they're coming with a big pot of gold. But maybe we're going to a meeting tomorrow. They're going to say they're going to issue a bunch of gold to us that we can all pay for. But my community can't pay more for I almost said garbage, but for landfill, we can't do it. Like it's a lot of money. I mean, I truck a long way now, and we've got everybody kind of settled down to this is what it is, and we're meeting all the criteria, and we're exceeding the criteria in most cases. To just sit in an office and make up ways to spend money, that's not going to be good. Like, we can't do it.
There are two approaches that they could take on this. I say we're in compliance with regulations. That's federal regs. They could introduce provincial legislation to regulate us to do it that way, or they could incorporate a requirement like this into our approval to operate as a facility, in which case we'd be out of compliance and we'd have to shut down if they went that way. I mean, I think that would be quite dramatic, but yeah. Yeah.
I think Frederick.
We're within the regulations and we're making money at it. So we're gonna change because
We're
the
the only
government
ones.
makes no
The other
sense.
municipals are not making any money. Is that what you're saying?
That's my belief.
Huh?
I haven't seen their books, but based on the performance
making
and
the money
the
we're making.
designs, that I think that's a fair statement.
That's a fair statement.
Yeah.
So
We're making money and they want us all to lose money, basically.
doesn't make sense.
What's the chances of having the minister come and try to explain to us the rationale behind us making changes to something that's working? And that prior to it getting to that point where we have to say we're not changing.
I think that's that was a point that was that has been discussed and floated. My personal feeling on that is that we have made progress with staff. There seemed to be some effect from when they received. We were copied on the correspondence from the city of Fredericton to the province, and there seemed to be almost an immediate effect after that. That's why I strongly suspect that similar correspondence from the other municipalities within the region would have a good impact on how this unfolds. And then my concern with bringing the minister in is, quite honestly, I think if we can get it resolved at a staff level and staff can give the minister an appropriate recommendation, that would be a perfect outcome versus bringing the minister in and taking turns attacking. That's my only concern.
I think we're in a position though, going into our second term as a complete Regional Service Commission board, all communities in, that if we don't take stands as a board on some strong issues, they're going to continue to offload. And so a functionaire sits here, makes a decision with another group of functionaires that sit here, and then they hand us a new job that we're paying for through our tax model. And I think we're going to have to look at that in a number of cases where we're trying to make changes and offloading, and we're just going to have to say, no, this may, and from my point of view, this may be one place to start. You don't want to make all of the commission problems your problem.
I think it was put well previously to the RSC isn't a lobbying organization. I think it means more to them coming from the municipalities, but that's not to say that we can't take a position, Director Corey. That's not.
Well, that's what I'm saying is when we're lobbying, we're a business, a board of directors running a business. We're not lobbying. We're taking a stand to say, we're sorry, you can't bring that in here. You know, it isn't, we're not saying we want you to create a new regulation for us. But we're not lobbying any of those things. So anyway,
So do we need a resolution or anything or a motion?
Just second, if you could just put your hand up so it'd be in orderly fashion, please. I'm going to ask first Director Tim Fox. Do you have any comments or questions?
The only comment I'd have is if you're suggesting that we individually as municipalities send letters into the minister, because I'm not an expert in this either, and if we had a list of bullet points that we could draw on to formulate our letter with, that would be handy.
Thank you. John?
Let us all send it in, sign it.
Madam Chair, through you to the board, I agree with Director Fox and with what Brett has said earlier. Oftentimes, if we make just one statement, that's one thing. If there's 14 statements come in, a lot of awareness, a lot more of awareness. Don't forget, they don't, internally to government, I know Director Corey and I and some others around this table, Director Faulkner and others and Director Morrison and gosh, I'm starting to tell on all of us here, had long careers in the government. Those letters go up to the minister and those letters get seen. And when there's, 12, 13, 14 letters coming from the one commission and they're signed and they're talking about, we're supporting the Capital Region Service Commission in their position of, that has a lot of weight to it. because the frequency of all those coming in and the signing of those, it does carry weight. And sometimes more is less, but in this type of thing, I think more is better in terms of that.
Yes.
Madam Chair, through you to the board. Again, I'm not an expert on greenhouse gases. I'm not an expert on anything. So I would suggest, from my point of view, and I can speak for my CAO, that it's pretty hard for us to draft up a letter that we know very little about. So if we could have some sort of
Template.
template we could use, that's fine. We can individually sign them. But without having something that looks educated, and what are we sending the letter in for?
Accuracy.
And Madam Chair, we do have briefing notes that Brett has prepared before on this and shared. And we can do that again, and that will allow you to individualize and customize it as well. So, and give some more background to it, along with some bulleted points in there as well.
Okay, Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Brett, for bringing this forward tonight and for your presentation. And thank you for coming to the City of Fredericton and presenting to our Environmental Stewardship Committee. That committee, very happy to receive your information. I've been talking about this for years anyway. I did them all a favor by being absent from that meeting, so they would only get it in mono instead of stereo for that moment. One of the things that I think gets lost in this conversation, though, is this organics program the province is pitching is also for the ICI sector, right? It's for the institutional, industrial, commercial sector as well, who also have been benefiting from the gas capture system at the landfill. And we, and I say we in the Service Commission sense, haven't done a good job at letting the ICI sector know that their waste is being treated with a very responsible gas capture system. There are bragging rights attached to that. University of New Brunswick may be the only university in Canada that has a comprehensive organics program being monitored by us for them. Like, that's important information for institutions to know. The same thing applies to our hospitals, right? And all the large businesses in our community. These are also institutions that will be paying more if this program is changed. So they also ought to be given an opportunity to write a letter to the province and to say, stop breaking things that work and that generate revenue. That's not the direction we want to go. And I bet we can get a letter from the university, from the hospital, from all the large industrial ICI players, because this is going to hit us in the pocketbooks, and that's not the kind of thing I want to see our provincial government doing. Thank you very much.
Maybe we need an ad campaign.
I agree 100%. Actually, we diverted our promotional funding that we used to spend on recycling when the producer responsibility organization took over residential recycling. We took that money, we added a bit to it, and we've actually been using it entirely to promote our landfill gas to energy facility in our projects. So that's where all our promotional money is going. So we do have some ad campaigns going on. We've obviously with the digital, we've got the capability to target it. So we've been geo-targeting areas that we think would be have more influence or more impact, primarily some government offices. That's been a real focus for us to get that messaging out and to reinforce the fact that we're doing something very creative here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brett, is there a way that we can, I think we all understand that it's going to cost us more money. I haven't heard that magic number really said yet, but when I reach into every resident's wallet and pull that amount out, there will be a lot of yelling. And so if we want to do this, I'm okay with everybody writing a letter, and I'll write my letter as soon as I get my points. I honestly believe having that after the person sees all the letters and that I'd love to see them explain to me how I'm supposed to sit in front of a resident that can't afford oranges today because we have to buy them from Morocco rather than someplace else because somebody's doing something crazy. now I'm gonna take more money from them? How? And so they wanna get noise, that's how you're gonna get noise, and if they wanna get support to this. And the second point I would make is if the others are not to our standard, don't talk to us until they get there. That's all, thank you.
Dr. Morrison?
Thank you, Madam Director. One thing I caution folks on is if we do a letter, we really shouldn't do like a template and everybody send the same letter in. I mean, get Brett's points, his bullets, incorporate them into your own letter, but have the letter come from your own community. Like this letter is going to end up in somebody's desk, they're going to say they're all the same, they may as well send in one letter and have 12 people sign it. So kind of craft your own letter with similar bullets, but just don't make a template that everybody uses because it doesn't carry the weight that 12 individual letters will carry.
If I could, Madam Chair, on that point, you're absolutely right, Director Morrison. That was one criticism of our the letters from the RSCs during the recycling program rollout. It was dismissed as being a form letter. And so we can, in the briefing notes, we'll have a list of our concerns noted, and each community may have different priorities.
And the dollar tonnage.
Yeah.
What the increase would be.
Yeah, so that would be a projection. The last time we designed a centralized compost facility was in, we actually got an estimate, the last time the province tried to force us to compost was in, I think it was in 2004. I was 2 years out of university, so that's going back, had a full head of hair. Cost back then was $30 million. And that doesn't include collection. So, I mean, that's $2,004, 30 million. And then collection would be a separate collection stream for each one of the municipalities. So you know what that costs. I mean, you could probably take your garbage cost and double it. And then you get your tipping fees on top and they'd have to go up as well.
If there's no other questions, Director Fox has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Director Fox?
Yes, Madam Chair, through you, I agree with Director Nicklin in one sense, and I'll just relay a real short story. I had a conversation with one of my residents just a few weeks ago about organics, and he felt quite strongly about the fact that we weren't taking organics and doing the right thing with them, and I explained to him the things that you had briefed us on in a previous meeting about the gas capture and the electricity production, and he changed his mind and immediately. And so to add to that, I think there's some maybe misunderstandanding or maybe a lack of information to the general public. And so I guess I'm going to just suggest this. If I write a letter on behalf of our municipality, we'll probably make it public. We'll share it with our, on our social media or whatever, and make it a public letter. And that's the best way to get your residents on board with the concept or the ideas as well, right? So I'm just throwing that out there as a suggestion that's probably how we'll handle it.
Dr. Corey?
We'll write a letter. We'll create one and send it in. It makes me seem like we're negotiating. And we don't have much power to negotiate as individual communities. So I'm not thinking there'll be a big win in that. As far as the 14 letters today, we could have chat, write those 14 for everyone in about 35 seconds. And they'll do the same thing when they answer them. That's the world we're in today. It's not the same. And I just don't want us to get through this and say, wow, that was lucky. We just had to make $1 million compromise. We were thinking we had to make a $5 million compromise. So if we're looking at negotiating through these letters, so if ours is coming out, we will say, we don't want this to happen at all. That's using your bullets, but that's because if there's negotiation, we lose. It's as simple as that. They'll win. They may only win half of their argument the first time through, but they'll win. And then we've taken on more of their works.
Okay, John?
Madam Chair, through you, Director Corey, I understand completely what you're saying. But I think it's also at where we are in the stage that we're at. Brett said just on Friday or Monday that we submitted our
Submitted it yesterday. Monday.
yesterday, so Monday, an over 100-page report on this. Then if we do a big push with the letters coming in, we know that government is paying attention. They're reaching out. We know that other commissions are paying attention. They too are starting to reach out to us. They're looking for leadership from Brett on this. And so don't forget, we're also, to the team and the solid waste division that just up until recently, and it's still headed by Brett, but indirectly now in his new role, in 2025 was up for an environmental award in Quebec and an engineering award in Alberta. I believe I have that correct.
Yep.
Based on the work that we've done, we don't, with the other areas and I mean the other areas of the province or other commissions, however you want to say it, we don't, we walk softly, but we carry a big stick. And when people are paying attention, they pay attention to what Brett and his team and the solid waste division team have to say. So I think if we do it proactively, we sustain it, we continue to be briefed on it, we apprise you of what's happening in the process, I think then we can make strategic decisions as we move forward. But I think at this point, the best possible thing we could do is, now that the submissions are in, follow it up with a community campaign, and then follow that up with further briefings from Brett to make sure that we are at the forefront of this. And I don't disagree with any of the statements that were made here tonight. I just believe that we need to take a staged approach to this, that's all.
Thank you. Okay, Director Sharp?
I struggle with the idea that as a director on the board of the Capital Region Service Commission, that we're here to represent the board, and the board, through our COO, has concerns about organic waste and the policy or whatever that may be coming down the pipes. And why can't we, as the board, put in one letter with the proper bullets? Because if I'm a board member here today, but then I have to go back to my council tomorrow. Not tomorrow, because I just met last night. So another month goes by, and by the time another month goes by, I'll have all sorts of other things on my plate besides organic waste. So it's just like we can't seem to do anything in a hurry. So like Director Corey said, 35 seconds, you can have your letter written, I'll sign it, or maybe we will, maybe we won't. We can do that as a board member, but I can't do that as a mayor.
Madam Chair, one thing I'd also put out there, we responded to an invitation from the city of Fredericton to give a presentation at one of their committees. That's certainly something we'd be prepared to do with any of the municipalities if they reached out. Have to come in and talk to your councils and give them an update and go into some more detail about some of the good things that we're actually doing at our facility in Fredericton. So I would extend that invitation. I'd be happy to do it.
Well, I think that would definitely help, because then it's coming from somebody that's knowledgeable versus me going back to my council and trying to explain. It's like the other letters that we've talked about. It's pretty hard for me to explain exactly what they're looking for.
We can help you with that.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, anything further? Nothing further, then
I'll just resume, Madam Chair, if you will. Just a few points left in
Yes.
the
Yes.
report. Thank you, Brett, very much.
thank you, Brett.
For your
Thanks.
for your insight and your professional opinion, and no, I want the directors, Madam Chair, to know that your professional staff, this is your staff. I'm your staff person, I'm your one, but these are all your staff folks around and the people that fill these offices. And we often come in here and meet and you see people kind of come and go. And they're people that have professional backgrounds and history and knowledge in these areas. So please don't be afraid to call, don't be afraid to use us, don't be afraid to get us to reach out. We don't mind. We're here to help and to serve, and we want to see this region grow. We all have families. I have 2 daughters that I hope to goodness will reside here and live here and have grandchildren here and everything else. So I certainly want to do my part as much as everyone around this table. So, but don't be afraid. Your staff are professional and ready to help at any time. The agricultural mapping project, many of you have been invited, and we've commenced the mapping of agricultural lands in the region. And this started and emanated out of the discussions with the economic expansion committee, and in that we've come to find out in discussions with other RSCs that some of them would like to partner with us, and we've been in dialogue and discussion with both the federal and provincial government about this, and they're very interested, but they're interested so long as we're in partnership so they can see bigger areas being covered. And so I've reached out to colleagues, and we're going to follow up, and those conversations will be happening over the next several weeks, and I'll continue to keep you informed on that. Some of the regions have seen benefit already to doing the agricultural land use mapping. They've had families move in to buy and develop and redevelop farmlands that had been vacant. So very positive, certainly speaks to food security and insecurity in the province, and how do we address it in, here as a province and as regions. Well, we invest and we allow people to know where those are. It's not meant to be prescriptive. It's meant to be another tool in the planning aspect, and all communities have been invited to participate. In terms of that, Madam Chair, the Aquatic Center, an update. We've completed the architectural and design phase, and the project we've received the documentation, and we are currently in the process of reconciling the financials, and we'll bring forward a staff report for the March meeting is our target for the March meeting of the board. And at that point in time, we'll break everything down and go through it as a full report to you on that. It's been a long process, and it's been good, and at least at the end of the day, we have the architectural and design plans for what we had originally been intended, and who knows where that one may be. Just recently in the province, there was an announcement on a recreation facility that was set. I guess my understanding was this part of the phase had been completed like 7 years ago. And some communities decided to go forward and band together. It'll all depend on what happens with the with federal and provincial funding mechanisms. So just wanted to inform the board. This is just more for information. The synergy study was shared with all directors and CAOs. If you remember, that emanated out of budget 2024, and we were looking to make sure and to ensure that there was no duplication happening in the community development aspects of what we were doing. And the report was clear on that. There are some doing same and similar work, but independently of one another. So there was no duplication, and we're trying to collaborate on that and bring more groups together on it. And we'll be coming to the Community Development Committee with a report on that and progress on next steps. And last but not least, Madam Chair, and just keeping the board informed, just recently I was able to secure some funding from the Human Development Council. This is a federally funded organization, and what we're doing is really looking at a rural needs assessment. We'll be working with the city of Fredericton and the town of Oromocto to see how what we find intersects. We're looking at it from a access to services point of view. How do people, what are your communities experiencing? What kind of calls are they getting? What's it look like for food, or for housing insecurity? Those that are looking for affordable housing. We're looking for data to help support so that we can cooperate and work together in the region. And it was, and the Human Development Council funded this at 100%. So it is, and I'll have a full report to the Community Development Committee next week on this, Madam Chair. Any questions? I know we've had a bit of a run already and we still got to get to closed session, so.
Any questions for John? Any questions, Tim, Director Tim?
Oh, fine, thanks.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Director Powell?
Are we still gonna get a copy or something for all these notes if we're gonna write a letter?
Yes.
Okay. I'll know expedite.
Okay, nothing further. Thank you, John. Thank you, Brett.
Sure.
Okay, I need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll move one more.
Second by.
Second, Dave Morrison.
We're into closed session and Director